All right, so we're going to take a look at a few officer-involved shootings from this past week. We have one incident where an officer was killed and another officer was injured, and then 5 other stories where officers were hit by gunfire in the line of duty. So we're going to start in Brandon, Mississippi, where we had a law enforcement officer that was killed and another that was injured. And they're not given the names on this page, but we should get them in the story. A veteran law enforcement officer with the Madison Police Department was killed Thursday while responding to a standoff in the Brandon neighborhood. Randy Tyler was fatally wounded by the suspect, who also died. A Brandon police officer was wounded earlier in the morning during a hostage situation that turned into a standoff. The officer, whose name hasn't been released, is in stable condition at the hospital. Brandon Police Chief Wayne Dearman said the incident began around 1:45 a.m. Thursday when police received a call about a domestic incident at a home at Terrapin Hill North. There were 2 women inside the house who told officers the suspect was wearing a bulletproof vest and was armed with a rifle and a handgun, and one of the women was able to escape. When they arrived on the scene, the suspect fired shots at the officer. Dearman said the officer was shot in the side. After taking more than an hour with the suspect, the chief said they reached a compromise. As we gave him what he asked for, the hostage was able to run out, the woman. The chief said the suspect, 22-year-old Gabriel Matthew Wilson, was armed with a rifle and a handgun and indicated he was ready for a fight. At about 9:30 a.m., several shots were fired at the scene. About an hour later, Martin confirmed that an officer, along with the suspect, had been killed. So that was 9:30. What time did they say it started? 1:45 a.m.? So that went on for a long time. That went on for almost 8 hours. This guy has the hostage inside the place, the woman that was with him. And one officer ends up getting shot and killed, and another officer ends up injured during that standoff. Okay, now the rest of these are going to be officers that were just injured. We didn't lose any more other officers besides that one. We got Las Vegas and New Mexico on this one. Or Las Vegas, New Mexico. Is that a city in New Mexico? I'm not understanding this. So our officer's name is Deseree Salazar, and that's a female, and looks like the person that shot her is related to her, Jesse Salazar-Navarrette. He's 27 years old. That's our suspect. Las Vegas Police Department officer Deseree Salazar was transported to Alta Vista Regional Hospital by ambulance on May 26 with a gunshot wound to the lower right abdomen. Emergency room staff determined the bullet had not exited her body and deemed her to be in critical condition. Once she was stabilized, she was airlifted to the University of New Mexico Hospital in Albuquerque. The police chief said that he did not have specific details on her condition, but that she was doing well. Sometime this week, I'm going to make a trip to visit her. Police arrested the officer's brother, 27-year-old Jesse Salazar-Navarrette, and charged him with negligent use of a deadly weapon while intoxicated, a misdemeanor. Salazar-Navarrette told police he pulled the trigger because he didn't think the gun was loaded. Las Vegas police received the shooting call around 8 p.m. on May 26 and responded to the home on the city's south side, where they located Officer Salazar on the kitchen floor bleeding from a gunshot wound. Salazar-Navarrette told police he'd been working in Farmington, New Mexico, and arranged a family dinner. He admitted to drinking a beer at dinner and said he and his sister had a beer afterwards at the family member's home as they sat on stools around the kitchen island. So he's had 2 beers. Salazar-Navarrette had purchased a 9mm Glock 19 pistol from a pawn shop in Farmington 1 day prior. He retrieved the gun from his truck to show his sister, Officer Salazar. While they sat at the kitchen island, Salazar-Navarrette told police that Officer Salazar disassembled the pistol and that he took the pistol back from her, reassembled it, and then pulled the trigger, thinking the pistol was unloaded. The pistol fired a single round and struck Officer Salazar. Salazar-Navarrette said he checked his sister for injuries, noticed a hole in her jeans on the right side. He applied pressure to the wound until first responders arrived to treat her. Officers detected the smell of alcohol on Salazar's breath, and because evidence indicated that he'd handled and discharged a firearm while under the influence of alcohol, he was arrested. He was given a $5,000 bond and has a hearing on July 25th. So he's trying to tell these people that he was drunk enough off 2 beers to not notice that he had disassembled and reassembled a gun and didn't see the bullet in there. I don't know, two beers. I don't know how big this guy is, but 2 beers. There's a picture of him. He looks like a decent sized guy. I don't know. Well, he shot his sister. It sounds like she's going to be okay. All right, let's go to New Albany, Indiana, where we have law enforcement officer Corporal Andrew Byrne was injured, and our suspect Barry Sowders was 25, and he was injured and arrested. A police officer has been shot and injured after a suspect opened fire on the officer in downtown New Albany. According to a social media post by the city of New Albany, police were searching for a 25-year-old man who was reported to be armed and dangerous in the area of Main and Spring. The New Albany police chief said the shootout occurred after the suspect, whom police were searching for, opened fire on the officers. When they encountered him, he opened fire on the officers. The suspect was also shot in the shootout. Neither the suspect nor the officer's injuries were considered life-threatening, and there will be more investigation. So this is kind of something that happens all the time. These guys, they get in shootouts with these guys that just don't want to be arrested. Let's go on to Chicago, Illinois, because we can't do one of these stories without Chicago. And this isn't listening. This just says, okay, an off-duty Chicago police officer was wounded in a shooting Wednesday night on the near west side. The officer was in the 2200 block of West Maypole around 9:15 p.m. when a group of people confronted him and at least one person began shooting. The officer, whose age wasn't released, was shot in the arm, then returned gunfire, but it wasn't clear if anyone else was shot. He was taken to the hospital, where he is in good condition. No arrests have been reported, but a weapon was recovered on the scene. A white SUV with a bullet hole through the windshield remained at the scene of the shooting, and they're asking for more information. So this officer was off duty. It didn't say if they were off duty and in uniform or if they were just off duty. And I don't know if that would make a difference. If you shot an off-duty officer who was in street clothes, I imagine the sentence you get isn't as high as shooting an officer on duty in their uniform or even off duty in their uniform. But it doesn't really say in this, so we don't really know. So let's go on to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, another usual suspect. We got a 27-year-old officer and an adult male suspect who was killed. A man was fatally shot by Philadelphia police after he shot an officer in the hand during a barricade situation in Kensington. The incident happened at the 2800 block of Root Street just after 7:15 p.m. The Philadelphia officer was placed in stable condition at the hospital before being discharged hours later. Philadelphia Police Commissioner said the officer is a 27-year-old who has been with the force for about a year. Outlaw said police responded to the 2800 block of Root Street for reports of gunshots. Once they arrived, they found shell casings and heard a commotion coming from inside the home. Outlaw said officers made entry inside the property as people were coming out of the house. She said people were exiting the property, pointing in the direction for officers to inquire, but they weren't sure why, as police were attempting to clear the house. Outlaw said they found a man in the crawl space. The police ordered the man to leave. He refused. There was a struggle with the taser was used, but it was ineffective. The man attempted to take the taser, and the officer then heard a shot. The Philly officer who was shot then fell to the ground with a gunshot wound to the hand. 3 police officers, including one sergeant, fired their weapon and struck the man after the struggle. It's unclear how many times the man was hit. The 2 other officers weren't injured. Police exited the property, but eventually re-entered and found the man dead in the crawl space. The barricade lasted roughly an hour. So this guy's in a crawl space And there's like at least 3 officers outside of this crawl space. I don't know what he thinks he's going to do. Unless he's one of these guys that had like a mission to die and wanted to get shot, because you're not getting out of that situation. I mean, clearly there wasn't a way out the backside of that crawl space, or he would have taken it before they even found him. So this was just stupid of him to fire the gun that he had at the officers in that situation. Okay, let's go to Salinas, California, where we have a 40-year-old officer who was injured and another suspect who was killed. Wow, another standoff. Wow, there's been a lot of standoffs this week. A multi-hour standoff in Salinas ended with gunfire and alleged shooter dead. What started as an eviction notice at an apartment in the morning turned into gunshots. During the first exchange of gunfire around 7 a.m., a Monterey County Sheriff's deputy was shot multiple times. The deputy was taken to the hospital for surgery and is expected to make a full recovery. A shelter-in-place was issued. After 9 hours without any movement, gunshots rang out shortly before 5 p.m. Dozens of gunshots could be heard. Several attempts were made to resolve the situation peacefully. However, the suspect continued to fire at law enforcement. Return fire was initiated, and at 5:45 p.m., the suspect was fatally injured. The name of the suspect and deputy who were shot has not been released. It was reported that the deputy was 40 years old and a 17-year veteran with the Monterey County Sheriff's Office. So this is just another standoff where they get in these standoffs with these guys, and I don't know, I mean, obviously criminals aren't always the smartest people, but I don't know how these people think they're going to get out of these things, because there's more police out there than them. There's no way they can take them all out. And again, unless it's these people are just trying to end up, 6 feet under, I don't know. I don't even know what they're trying to do, or they're trying to go out in some kind of blaze of glory, something like that. I don't know. But that was the last one I had for you today. So anyway, if you like this, give it a thumbs up, and I will continue to do more of these officer-involved shootings in future weeks. Thanks for watching.